Here's what's coming up on Network Africa. Zimbabwe places restrictions as dozens die of cholera. Cameroon rebels kill civilians accused of spying. Plus, Liberia President George Weah seeks re-election after a chaotic first term. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers in Lagos. We start off in Zimbabwe, where the government has introduced restrictions to control a cholera outbreak that's suspected to have killed more than 100 people. The measures include suspending some social gatherings and restricting the number of people allowed to attend funerals in areas affected by the outbreak. Shaking hands and the serving of food at the funerals have also been banned. The health ministry had on Wednesday announced 100 suspected cholera deaths, 30 out of which had been confirmed through laboratory tests. Zimbabwe is prone to frequent cholera outbreaks. One of its worst outbreaks between 2008 and 2009 killed more than 4,000 people and infected nearly 100,000 others. Elsewhere now, armed separatists in Cameroon are claiming the murder of 2 kidnapped civilians they accused of spying for the army. This follows the release of a video which showed 2 men sitting on a road and then being shot dead at close range. Investigations were underway, according to a local administrator in Guzang village in the northwest. Separatists have been fighting in the 2 English-speaking regions of Cameroon since 2017. Rights groups have condemned government troops and separatists for killings, rapes, torture, and burning homes and schools, resulting in the displacement of more than 800,000 people. Ahead of Liberia's elections on Tuesday, President George Weah is telling voters that he needs more time following his first term marred by corruption, allegations, and continued hardship. Many still need convincing, as some voters say they are disappointed by his failure to improve living standards or tackle corruption and a growing narcotics problem among destitute youths.
The former soccer star, who came to power in 2017 on a wave of popular support after 2 unsuccessful attempts, had stressed that he was on track to deliver progress in the poverty-stricken West African country, despite the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic, to which he attributed the derailment of his plans.
So we are someone that get development even. Number 1, we help you in school, we bring our road, and also help you all really students help to send some out of school.
For now, I see 75% of youth are on the street. Based on the just attitude for me. That's the tangible point I'm hitting on. I want to get rid of the just abuse in the nation. Our fellows, our friends are dying from the just. This is push.
George Weah, 57, who rose from the slums of Liberia to the apex of world soccer, playing for top clubs such as PSG and AC Milan, will face 19 candidates in the presidential election. His main challenger is former Vice President Joseph Boakai, 78 years old, who he defeated in a runoff in 2017 and who is known as Sleepy Joe for allegedly falling asleep at public events. President Weah has built hospitals and introduced free education in a country still struggling to emerge from 2 devastating civil wars between 1989 and 2003 and the 2013 to 2016 Ebola epidemic that killed thousands. Last year, George Weah fired his chief of staff and 2 other senior officials after the United States imposed sanctions on them for corruption. In 2018, a Liberian court issued arrest warrants for more than 30 former central bank officials in connection with $104 million that went missing. Analysts say Weah will likely win in the second round because he enjoys the power of incumbency, and the success story of a former football star who rose from poverty continues to appeal to voters.
In East Africa, Kenya has deployed a contingent of specialized police units to contain the escalating communal clashes in the western town of Sondo along the border of Kericho and Kisumu counties. 7 people have died and several others displaced in the fresh clashes that started on Wednesday. Interior Minister Kature Kindiki is set to transfer local security chiefs from both Kisumu and Kericho due to the carnage. Local leaders are asking government to resolve a border dispute between the warring communities as a matter of urgency. Let's get back to our top story today on the crisis in Zimbabwe following an outbreak of cholera that has killed more than 100 people. Joining us virtually from Harare is Zimbabwean journalist Nigel Nyamuntubu. Hello, Nigel. Thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thanks, and a pleasant evening to you.
Right. So what areas, have the cholera broken out in Zimbabwe? And does the government know the source of this current outbreak?
Yes, so Zimbabwe has indeed been put on a cholera alert, particularly two administrative provinces, that is in Masvingo and Manicaland. Those two provinces have been affected and have recorded the most cases that have been treated as on a suspect basis, and those that have been confirmed. This is not the first time that Zimbabwe has experienced an outbreak of cholera, and from time to time we do have bouts of this particular scourge, and it's predominantly a result of water sources and a result of hygiene conditions that result from a number of people staying within particular areas, thus making them prone to diseases such as cholera. So it has been a health time bomb, and yes, sadly, right now the country, like some countries in the region, South Africa, Zambia, Malawi, that have also put that particular alert, Zimbabwe is indeed facing this outbreak again.
Measures the government is taking to stem the further spread of cholera. Are these measures working?
Yes, for now, seeing that it is mainly two provinces that have been affected, what they have done is they are trying to contain the spread of the cholera outbreak by locking down those particular districts where the cases have been reported, and those cases where death have been recorded as well. They've also are trying to restrict the number of persons that can attend, or that some social activities have been put on hold to ensure that there is minimal physical contact in those areas that are affected. Over and above that, working with other agencies of the United Nations, including the World Health Organization and the country's own Ministry of Health and that of Information, has been on a massive campaign to raise awareness and to raise an alert to citizens. But also there have been mitigatory factors insofar as the water sources are concerned, and also insofar as early treatment to ensure that we may not have as many deaths. And there are, yes, been treating with the view to ensure that it does not spread, because the moment it spreads, most places in Zimbabwe will most likely be affected, given that a lot of these residential areas are overpopulated, which then raises the case to treat as many of these cases before they spread.
And Nigel, do you know if the country has access to cholera vaccines, since these are now like a common occurrence?
Yes, they recognized treatments to cholera that the government has been treating patients with. It is curable, and because also some common diarrheas like diseases are linked with cholera, and some natural solutions such as the salt and sugar solutions in the mild cases are also implemented, and a number of patients that are admitted can recover. So government does have resources to address that. But it is better to treat the cause than to then try and rapidly respond to an outbreak when it does. I think for a more long-term solution that deals number one with the water crisis and the sources of water. Secondly, that also deals with the density, population density, and obviously to promote as much as possible hygiene standards, high hygiene standards of citizens. That will also come into really, because for the fourth time, surely by now we should be more proactive than to just react as a country.
And are there reports of people recovering from the disease?
Yes, actually, if you look at the cases, there are more recoveries than deaths that have been recorded thus far. Yes, there have been deaths, which is unfortunate and quite regrettable, but there have also been a positive story in that most of these cases have either been mild, and in some instances, the severe cases are also being reported to have been treated. Not all are resulting in death, but it's really yet to be seen on how the outbreak is mitigated for it not to spread, because the more people that will contract cholera, the more deaths that will likely be recorded or that will likely occur. So one would hope that the affected provinces, and in particular the districts that have already been put on some form of lockdown, can already just contain the disease, and that it doesn't spread to an extent that we'll have more deaths, and that will be extremely regrettable.
Right. Nigel, thank you for your time today.
Sure, thanks.
Well, the U.S. has announced it will be resuming delivery of food aid for refugees in Ethiopia after a 5-month hiatus. This comes after the authorities in Addis Ababa agreed to step away from distributing the supplies. Washington suspended aid in May following a similar move by the United Nations, citing widespread and coordinated theft of food aid. The Ethiopian government made reforms which include strengthening monitoring and oversight, as well as increasing commodity tracking before the U.S. decided to resume. Additionally, Ethiopia has transferred responsibility for dispatching and warehousing of the food aid. Hundreds of thousands of refugees currently residing in Ethiopia, mostly from neighboring countries like Sudan, South Sudan, Somalia, and Eritrea, will benefit from the resumption of food aid. And still to come on the program. Libya flood disaster may have damaged the ancient city but reveals new remains. More details after the break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Our breaking news this hour. The Lagos State Police Command has named an auxiliary nurse identified as Feyi-Shayo Ogidengbe as the prime suspect in the death of Afrobeat singer Mohbad. During a press briefing on the investigations into the controversial death of the musician, the police also named Naira Marley, Sam Larry, and Prime Boy among other suspects in the state. Our breaking news out of Nigeria this hour. The Lagos State Police Command has named a nurse identified as Feyi-Shayo Ogidengbe as a prime suspect in the death of Afrobeat singer Mohbad. Some of those also named by police in the investigation is Naira Marley, a popular musician, Sam Larry, and Prime Boy, among other suspects being questioned in this case. Our developing story will get more updates for you as the day continues. But let's move on to other parts of Africa. As heavy fighting continues in Sudan, the UN's top aid official in the country, Clementine Nkweta Salami, is cautioning that the conflict has created the world's fastest growing displacement crisis, which threatens to outstrip the organization's best efforts to help those most in need. Speaking to journalists in Geneva, Ms. Nkweta Salami noted that approximately 30,000 a day have fled fighting, some fleeing with nothing but the clothes on their backs.
The past 6 months has caused untold suffering in Sudan. Some 5.4 million have fled their homes and are totally displaced within Sudan or in neighboring countries. That's an average of about 30,000 a day, many fleeing with nothing but the clothes on their backs. Sudan has become the world's fastest growing displacement crisis. Half of Sudan's population, 24.7 million people, now require humanitarian and protection as the conflict, displacement, and disease outbreaks threaten to consume the entire country. I have met mothers in Sudan who've told me they don't know where to find the next meal for their children. I've met families sleeping in makeshift shelters, struggling to find food and water, unable to access healthcare, their children out of school and the family breadwinners out of work. In recent weeks, another shock has hit Sudan as the heavy rains and floods have affected more than 70,000 people across 7 states.
Algerian authorities have tightened health measures at its borders to limit the spread of bed bugs, which have swept across France. Some of the measures of the health ministry in the North African country, introducing health monitoring and disinfecting of aircraft, ships and vehicles at entry points. It comes amid concern that the blood-sucking insects could come into Algeria due to heavy air traffic from France. No bedbug infestations have been reported in the country as yet, but authorities are asking residents to be vigilant. Neighboring Morocco has already announced measures to limit the risk of bedbugs spreading into its territory. The bedbug infestation in Paris and other cities in France has been raising concerns with questions about health and safety during next year's Olympic Games. For a long time, Fuad Lawal had difficulties getting simple information about Nigeria's history online until a work trip in 2019 when he stumbled upon 1980s newspapers in the Usman Dan Fodio University Library in Sokoto, Nigeria. That's when Mr. Lawal started a pilot mission to digitize newspapers from a trial period of 1960 to 2010. His startup, Archive NG, located 97% of the papers for the trial period within 6 weeks.
Realizing the wealth of information not available online, Fuad Lawal, a former journalist, questioned the broader need for such accessibility.
And so the question became like, if I have this need, how many more people have this need? And that's pretty much how we got started.
However, the COVID-19 lockdowns and issues of acquiring the appropriate scanning technology delayed the project until April 2023. The former journalist explained that while snippets of Nigeria's history exist online, the aim of the project is to capture not only significant events, but also the daily lives of ordinary people.
Whenever we think of history, we tend to think about big things, politics, leadership. But it's also the small things, like how did we date in the 70s? And what were we eating? When did jollof rice become mainstream?
Archiving is the process of cataloging print material from over 30 publishers across Nigeria. This involves obtaining permission to digitize archives, sorting and scanning the papers, and passing them through a quality control process before uploading them to the cloud.
Documentation is very, very important because it helps preservation of information, especially lost information or not enough information that is there on the internet, because most of these things we are documenting, you can't find them in real details or in its originality.
After scanning 50,000 pages and over 120,000 stories, Archiving went live on Saturday, September the 30th for its pilot phase. The project, funded by donations, has raised over $30,000 to date.
The flooding that killed thousands in Libya's Derna last month damaged the ruins at the ancient Greek city of Cyrene in the mountains nearby, but it also revealed new archaeological remains, thereby washing away earth and stones. According to scientists, Storm Daniel may have caused a meter of rain to fall on the hills of eastern Libya, and water was still flowing through the site last week. Local Antiquities Department official Abdel Bouvja says that while the risks great damage to the picturesque ruins in the area known locally as Shehad, the water has also washed clear a previously unknown Roman drainage system. The area was a Greek colony and one of the principal cities of the ancient Hellenic world before becoming a major center under the Romans until an earthquake destroyed it in 365 CE. Moroccans living an hour from where the global financial elite will gather for IMF and World Bank meetings next week are homeless and destitute after last month's deadly earthquake, camping amid the rubble of their fallen villages. Near the conference venue in the city of Marrakesh, where quake damage was less severe, the old city wall has already been repaired. A fallen minaret has been covered up, rubble has been removed, lawns trimmed and flowers planted. But in the high Atlas Mountains, where most of the quake's 3,000 victims were killed, villagers live in tents with little access to showers or working toilets, surviving on state handouts while they try to resurrect their shattered lives. The vivid contrast reflects inequalities that already defined a country that has some of Africa's most advanced infrastructure and industry, but where many of the rural poor live without basic services, including sewage systems. More than 10,000 people are expected to attend the IMF and World Bank meeting at the direct request of Morocco's government, and fund spokesperson Julie Kozak said Rabat had given assurances the conference would not disrupt relief work. The meeting is seen as important for drawing back tourists to Morocco. And still in Morocco, but finally on the program, Moroccans are delighted at the announcement that their country will co-host the 2030 World Cup alongside Spain and Portugal. FIFA made a surprise announcement confirming Spain, Portugal and Morocco as hosts after another bid dropped out, but said that 3 opening matches would be played in Uruguay, Argentina and Paraguay. After 5 failed attempts to become World Cup hosts, the announcement that Morocco will share the honors will lift spirits in the North African country a month after a devastating earthquake that killed nearly 3,000 people. The decision comes days after Morocco was also chosen to host the 2025 African Cup of Nations after several other bids dropped out. Hosting the events may provide a boost to the Moroccan economy after pressure due to a severe drought and high inflation. That's the program today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joker Rogers.